Okay, I gotta, damn it, I gotta pee, but no, we finna do this. Ooh, language. Now you might ask yourself, what about language? Okay, so for me, language is a form of communication, right? There are lots of languages on this planet. As a person of color born in America, more than likely of slave descent. Also, I have other descendants, but immigrant descent, slave descent, immigrant descent. Most of my family, as far as I know, because I did my 23andMe, and then my aunt, who was kind of like the family historian, she has a lot of information on our family tree and the nationalities and the heritage and things like that. So immigrants, Irish immigrants, and descendants of African slaves for the most part. Okay. English is the only language that I can fluently speak because it is the native language that was taught to me, that I grew up with. I didn't grow up in a home where they spoke other languages, and that's for the majority of people of color, of immigrant African descent in America. That's kind of what makes us different from other people of color, even Africans. An African will learn English later on, but their first language will be like maybe a native dialect, a mix of dialect of languages, their own native. Then they may learn the language of their colonizer, French, the Queen's English, German, Dutch. What do the Dutch speak? What they speak? Dutch. Anyway, don't get me acting ignorant right now. What they speak though? I'm gonna look that up now. I gotta know now. Stay focused. So, the Chinese, they have several dialects. Mandarin, I think, being probably the most popular one, and then I know they got the Szechuan chicken, but is that a dialect too? I think it is. Anyway, the Chinese, it's how many? It's 8 billion? No, it ain't that many billion. It's a lot of folks over there. It's a lot of folks over there on this side of the world. Because India got a billion, right? And then China got another 1.5 billion or 2? Well, it's 3 billion people just over there alone. The earth probably like, damn. So then, yeah, Indians, they have their language and they're people of color. I think what they speak, Hindu? Or is that the religion? Is that the language too? Now I have to get into it. My point is that most people of color here, black people, African Americans, whatever you want to call them, melanated beings, niggas, whatever the fuck y'all want to call them. I try not to identify with a lot of this shit because it comes with too many. Yeah, some of it is culture, and some of it we will pretty much kind of, you can tell, you'll know a black American woman, you'll be able to probably pick her out if she travels and stuff like that. So, you know, some of this shit true, some of it's not though. The categories, the prejudices, the what they call them, the titles, things like that. Because we only speak English. We only speak English. We weren't taught anything else, and we really don't know our native tongue. We don't know what it would be or what it should be or what it could be. We most of us don't know. A few of us, you know, you got like Gullah Gullah Island, and then you got this other little island, I think it's in North Carolina, where they're able to hold on to the African culture just a little bit, maybe a lot of it, but I don't know if they speak the language, because it's so unclear on, you know, the story of where they got us from over off the continent and brought us over here. None of that language, none of that survived slavery. I don't think. None of that totally is wiped out. So we are stuck with the language of our oppressor, our slave master, for the most part, and that's English. Now, you'll find that you're in different regions of the United States, you'll find different slangs, or even I'll say different dialects of English with slang. And then you have Ebonics, which I think became official and whenever, which is like, you know, nigga talk for the most part. It's just a nice way of saying that. And basically it's like poor grammar, which comes from like lack of education. So it's like almost a mocking on us not even being able to speak the one language we were taught. It's like, shit, you want that motherfucker to learn Spanish? They need to learn proper English first, make a complete sentence. But I say that's what's left over from slavery. Not being able to read, not being able to write properly, not being able to not know what a sentence is, not know what a paragraph is, not know what proper punctuation is, the basic stuff like that. But like our languages and our food and our spirituality and or religion, none of that survived. So when I think of language, I take it like a little bit a step above what our tongue speaks, because I hear communication or languages in everything. Like nature has a language, the earth has a language, the galaxy has a language, and it's like all frequency, hertz. So the one thing I like really feel about language is the one thing I feel like we all speak, and I don't know if I've said this before, but it's appropriate for the subject that we picked today. I think the one language we all understand is music. We all speak that. And I touched on that before about us all being like a music verse in a really long, elaborate song. This is the remix. No, Diddy don't. No, Diddy remixes. Goddamn shit. Even though you got to admit, back in the day when it was a Diddy remix, that shit did bang hard. Like, damn. You knew when Diddy did the remix, it was kind of like we was waiting on him. It's just facts. When he remixed that joint, you knew it was gonna be a banger. Like, yeah. But he's remixing now, goddamn it. Anyway, I'm not finna speak on that shit. They ain't got shit to do with me. but language is just a form of communication, and language is in anything. So you can have body language, verbal language, telepathic language, which that's also something I have the gift of, telepathy. I'm not really able to control it, because really, to be honest, it's not. I would need like someone who's like a master of that to help me with that, but most of the time it just come in forms of unwanted communication for the most part, or hearing people's thoughts. I don't know if I'm hearing them or I feel them and I'm able to translate them. I'm not sure. That's what I'm saying. I don't have a grasp on it yet. I just know it's something that I do possess. And then there's like communication from like the universe, communication from your ancestors, communication from your angels. Just all these forms of communication that are always happening like simultaneously all day long. I can understand why a motherfucker be diagnosed like clinically insane or schizophrenic or something. All this shit just is such a thin line. And I think it's the people who, what keeps you on one side versus the next. I don't know if I have the answers for that. I think for me, because I've had days where that line been so thin. That line been so thin where I'm just like, let me just go full blown fucking nuts. But what stops me? I think the love of God stops me. Real talk. It keeps me. No, my child, get back over here. You have business to handle. I know. Those children, you have those children. I got your back. I think that's what keeps me on the other side of the insanity line. Because I swear it'd be plenty of days I do not get this shit. And I get up and I see everybody in a rush to go to fucking work, to pretend they important and hurry up and rushing and getting their kids off. And that's a language to me too. There's a systematic language. It's a systematic language of control. But back to the universal language, back to music. Everybody understands that language. Everybody. You can go anywhere in the world. You do not have to speak their native tongue. You can drop a beat. If you want to communicate something to someone, and if you don't know their language, if you don't have a Google Translate or something like that, a song goes a long way. And I'm not saying like, yeah, it does. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, if you in a place where you don't speak the language and you're hungry, like, yeah, you're gonna have to probably figure that out. But I'm just saying, in a sense of community, a joining, a coming together. Music is the universal language for me. I know a little Spanish, and when I say a little, I mean a little. Like, I could get by. I'm not fluent by any means. Would I like to be fluent? Yes. What's stopping me? Time, I guess. I don't know. Lack of discipline, not prioritizing it. But I do love language. I do love listening to languages, because also with the English language, if you ever listen to other languages, English is the only language that's just so choppy. Chop, chop, chop. If you listen to Spanish, if you listen to Swahili, if you listen to French, Italian, Portuguese, even Mandarin, the languages, I don't know if Oriental is offensive, but the languages of the Orient, they all sound like they're singing. All of them have because they use more like oh. You'll see that if they open their mouth in this, and it creates a oh. So I'll just say like hola, like hi. English, hi. Hi. Spanish, hola. I think it's bonjour in French. Bonjour. Now, also other languages that get a little choppy, because it's cold as fuck over there in these parts. They gonna talk mean anyway. Is Russian. Niet. German. Guten Morgen. Okay. But you understand, it's cold over there. They rigid. But you listen to like, but even I'm sure if they get to talking like having a full blown conversation, I think you'll still hear the music in it. And I think the English language makes us aggressive because it's not a soft language. It's a hard language. It's choppy. It's aggressive. And then when you go into saying languages, different spells, then the English language is definitely one because it's so many play on words. It's so many play on words in the English language. And then a lot of words that's in the English language are not even how we have one word. To translate it in another language, it takes several words. But people are so focused on learning English that they have probably changed some of their language to be able to translate words into English. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing. But people are like really want to learn English when I'm over here like, I really want to learn your language because it sounds so pretty. Italian. And I think all these languages, I think for the most part, all verbal languages are based in Latin, I believe. Latin. And then it branches out from there. Which is like amazing how the migration of people created different dialects of one base, one language base in a fusion with music. I'm serious. Or is it tones? It's the tones. And then too, a lot of most languages, I believe, I'm not sure about all, but I know in, French, Spanish, and Italian, and maybe I think in Portuguese, they are masculine and feminine. So for instance, in Spanish, for little boy, you'd say niño, and for little girl, you'd say niña. So they differentiate in that way too, the masculine and the feminine, which would also create a balance. English, nah. But then now you got all these motherfucking, the pronouns and shit. I ain't gonna go on that. Hey, it's confusing. It is. It is, because with our language, like, this is an example of how it gets a little confusing. This is not to bash or judge, but this is just an example for me. This is the one that confuses me the most. Is like them and they. Because in grammar, in English grammar, them and they is like plural. For example, if someone says, where's Shirley and Tina? Or Shirley and Mike? Or Mike and John? Or David and Kim? A response would be like, oh, they downstairs. Or in the great words of Bernie Mac, them downstairs. But you would think more than one person just based off of grammar in your teaching. Okay, so if for an individual that's their pronouns, for them, their pronouns are them and they, that's a little, that's confusing. I'll just leave it at that. Who am I to say what's wrong and what's right? It's just that's confusing, because most people, if they understand the proper grammar, they would be looking for more than one person. So I guess they're saying it's more than one person inside of them, but you're still a single being. I don't know. So that's my take on language. I would not consider myself a linguist. I just love hearing other people from other countries speak in their native tongue, though. It sounds so beautiful. They could be cussing me out, I wouldn't know. And then also, you know, it kind of corresponds with the body language too, because when they're, you know, when people are speaking in a native tongue that's, I feel, more balanced and more rhythmic and with melody and tones that are soft, you know, the body tends to relax. But with English, it's like, because it's so rigid and so choppy, we tend to be in that stance in communicating. And that may come off as, you know, an attitude or an aggression. But it's really the language. The language sets it up that way. I saw this thing on Instagram where the guy was like, I'm in America, and he said something, it's croissant. So the American guy's like, we know it's croissant, but what, we can go around saying, yeah, can I get let me get that grande frappuccino with whipped cream and a croissant. Like, yeah, it doesn't fit with our. So anyway, even when people that are not, English is not their first language, when they translate, they still have a rhythm, a rhythmic, a harmony, a music, accent, we call them accents, to our language. And so he's still able, croissant may not be English, but I don't know where the fuck croissant came from, but that's just an example. But yeah, we're gonna say a croissant. So someone who's learned English is still gonna say it in that tone. A croissant. Yeah, I would like to order a croissant. You see, they're still singing in such a way. We're not taught, that's not how we're taught English. Most of us are taught English by our yelling ass fucking parents. And we have to learn the language in order to communicate, and then we have to decide how we want to relay the language. You know, some children only some children that grew up in certain environments, you're like, they don't even understand, hey, don't do that. This, what they call it, gentle talk, parenting. They don't understand that. They don't be like, hey, don't do that, put that down. And then they actually listen. Some kids, you gotta be, look here, motherfucker, I said put that shit down before I slap the shit out of you. You get the response. They put it down. They didn't get, put that down, don't touch that. They didn't get it. It didn't translate. It's English, but they didn't get it. That's not the English they grew up with. That's not the English they know. So I guess maybe we do speak different languages. After all, there's lots of Englishes. I know a lot of them. I know West Coast. I know down south. New York, I've never spent a lot of time up north. So they're now, they are, shit, talk about aggressive English. Them New Yorkers, son. Shit, they necks and shit extend. Yeah, leave them alone. You come down south, the tongue get a little bit more relaxed. The R's start slurring. You might even get a little more lazy and just cut the word short. Out west, you know, you're kind of proper and prim. And, you know, you might say like a lot because you might have lived in the valley. And, you know, you're going to go get in the car. It just depends. So, yeah, that's my take on language.